speaker for today will be Sal Spada, Research Director, ARC Advisory Group, USA. His focus areas include general motion control, material handling, machine safeguarding, computer numerical controllers, robotics, and servo drives. Sal has over 15 years hands-on experience in motion control system design as a software developer, project manager, and product marketing manager. He holds a BS and MS in electrical engineering from the University of Massachusetts and an MBA from Babson College. Sal, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Sharda. That was great. I forgot to mention, Raman didn't warn you that there's actually a trap door here. So if you exceed your time, warning, you'll fall through. So anyways, I'd like to welcome all of you to this great event. I guess it's the 16th year. I don't know where the time goes, but it certainly does pass. I mean, we actually it just passed our 22nd year at the forum in Orlando in the US this year as well. So we really, as a company, putting together a lot of events. And I have to say, our India team has done an extraordinary event in organizing and bringing some great people to this event. And I encourage you all to take advantage of that, because we have really what is a unique opportunity to really interact, share ideas, and learn from each other. This is not a passive event. This is a very active event. So ask questions, be inquisitive. So I encourage that completely. So once again, I really appreciate our team here in India. They've done a great job working for months to bring this forum together. And so what I'm going to talk about today is really the digital transformation in industry. But really what I want to do is unfold the underlying technology that's behind most of this transformation, because some of it is maybe a mystique to you, and some of it may use terminology that's not familiar to you. But I really want to stratify the technology in such a way that you can formulate a strategy with your own organization. But before I get started, I always think about a story of a young man and his son. They're watching the sunset and the beautiful light and the colors as light refracts through the atmosphere. And the reds and the oranges, it's absolutely gorgeous. Finally it gets dark. And the young man says, "Where did the light go?" But the father really didn't have an answer. And so they waited. They waited throughout the night. And it finally dawned on them. So with your journey through the digital transformation, I hope you don't have to wait through the night. So, did that change? Yeah, thank you. So as we've looked today, what companies are doing with the digital technology, digital transformation, they're tapping into big data. They're using methods today that are really creating differentiation on and creating competitive advantages that were never available before, because they've got knowledge. They've got data that allows them to make decisions that weren't available in the past. So what we're seeing is the emergence of new services, greater operational efficiencies in these organizations, and we're looking also at really the intersection of products and services. So what we're really experiencing is a digital transformation in operations all along many different industries and enterprises. And companies are adopting digital technology faster than we can believe. And it's already apparent in many consumer-facing industries such as retail, media, entertainment, and even transportation. Companies that thought they had a truly defensible position over the years, Walmart, Comcast, AT&T, are all playing catch-up. But they're also learning the digital technology faster than most other companies, and they're trying to transform their organizations into digital enterprises that can compete with the emerging entrepreneurial firms. But as industry, what we're going to find is that we're going to be impacted as well, because those consumer-facing industries will be driving demand for product faster, economic quantities of one, customization, and we're going to need to be able to respond to these demands. So the pressure is going to be on industry as we continue to go forward. Now at ARC, we do a lot of research about the digital enterprise, but we've identified 5 key attributes. But the most important one sits at the top, and that is being customer-centric and demand-driven. Your organization has to think about the customer first and how they're going to satisfy that demand that's kind of come down to, I want a product designed specifically for me. How are you going to respond to that? And through the attributes of managing large data, embracing new software technologies that allow you to be transformative, adaptive, agile, and you're also going to have to collaborate with your customer, not only your customers, your internal organization, but also your suppliers of materials. But a lot of us are really burdened by what we've invested in the past. On the left, you can see what is really the software investments that are really driving a lot of our operations. And these are large, monolithic installed bases of software that are were extremely expensive to invest in originally, and also equally expensive to maintain and service over their life expectancy. Their biggest drawback, when you think about it, was their inability to adapt and to change to the business needs. And so we were stuck. A lot of businesses were stuck by the fact that they had investments that were not meeting the particular needs to the current demands in their organization. So things are changing rapidly in the software world, and this is where you need to think about how you're going to make that digital transformation. And that is, companies are moving from managing their own data centers and internal hardware and resources and outsourcing that to cloud-based solutions. Software systems are also becoming developed into microservices rather than monolithic architectures. And this is a big transformation because now we're taking microservices which solve small, unique tasks and coupling them together, loosely coupling them together to make large systems. And this is a key advantage that we're going to take advantage of as we move through this digital transformation. But it's not going to be easy for some people. But as you can see, what you need to do is delayer your organization. Look across all your axes of operation. Vertically, look from the business systems down to the automation systems, across your supply chain to your customers, and then also from your product design down to the servicing of the product. The digital technology, the digital transformation needs to be accomplished across all of these axes. And so, for many people, the journey starts at the automation and the manufacturing level, where you think about how am I going to transform a lot of these systems that I have on the plant floor that have been really constraining me from how I want to operate, whether it's a manufacturing execution system, whether it's a maintenance management system, or other production tools. We have a whole host of software that's been deployed on the plant floor that really creates constraints to your operations. Now today, we have what we call the digital platforms that are really allowing us to move to a new way of layering our organization with software. And the key ones are really based on device connectivity, compute platforms, cloud application platforms, and analytic platforms. And we're going to talk about those briefly in this discussion. So I really wanted to bring this home because a lot of this is what drives the digital enterprise today. And at the ground floor, within your own manufacturing operations, really device connectivity. The device connectivity is really where a lot of this starts because it's what allows you to bring data to the cloud for further analysis. And we've talked about data capture, data collection over the years, but we've talked about it through going through control systems. But to realize in reality, that was too costly, because control systems can be a kind of an inhibitor to collecting data in many cases. You might be working in a validated industry where it requires you to revalidate a system every time you go and touch it. You might be working in an operation where you can't shut down, whether it's a steel mill, refinery, et cetera. So the idea of creating a device connectivity gateway, which is secure and pushes directly to the cloud, your data that's on your plant floor, and is also can be adapted to your needs by adding sensors, monitoring devices at an incredible pace without affecting your operations. And these systems is really where a lot of the energy is going within the manufacturing today. Because what we're starting to see is not only connectivity, pulling data up from the floor, but also machine learning is moving down to the gateway, to the edge. We're seeing deep learning, neural nets, all becoming an integral part of these gateways because people want to have more reactive, responsive systems down at the lowest level providing information, even before it gets to the cloud where much more learning can occur. So I suggest you really keep your eyes open on what's going on at this gateway level, what companies are working in this space, and how it's going to impact your production operations. And then at the next level, we're looking at really the cloud computing platform. And really, a lot of the companies that are servicing this sector are the major IT companies. So you're familiar with many of the names already, Amazon, Microsoft, and IBM, for example. So what we're looking at here is companies today that are invested in managing their own data centers, managing their own servers, hardware. There's a tremendous amount of expense. And guess what? It's not your core competence. You really need to let it go. This is a great opportunity where you can outsource what is really not your core and let these companies manage your hardware and software hardware resources where you can put your applications on top of. Because it's now becoming a rental business. They can continue to evolve and improve their performance of their systems much faster than you could have applied any kind of capital to improve your systems as well. You need to move your capital resources into other areas. And then certainly at the highest level, we're talking about analytics systems, those cognitive engines, the machine learning systems, and this is really where a lot of the industry changed. And this is why the transformation is taking place, and this was an enabler, is because now we have a place to put large data store. We've been talking about collecting data for 20 years, as long as I've been in the industry. But never before have we had a chance to unravel that data in a way and with the power and the resources that are available today in the cloud. And that's why this is such a big change for our industry, is because now we have a resource, which is almost a resource that we don't have to even implement. We just need to rent it and utilize it. And what we're finding is, certainly the companies that we see here, whether it's IBM, SAP, Microsoft, they all have analytics engines, cognitive engines. But there's hundreds of other analytic companies out there that are actually specializing in maybe vertical applications, very unique applications that you need to identify for your industry and your particular market requirements. Because one size doesn't fit all in this industry. So whether you're trying to optimize the performance of a compressor or pumps or conveyors, et cetera, you may have companies that really specialize in those areas. And then finally, with the platforms as a service, we're finding companies in our own industry, the Siemens, the GEs with their Predix, Siemens with their MindSphere, for example, and there's several others, which are building application development environments on top of these compute platforms. But they're more akin to being more of a development, more of an operating system in a development environment rather than a solution for your specific application. So what we're looking at is a market that is segmented into two types of compute platform or cloud application platforms. And that is the companies such as MindSphere, Siemens with their MindSphere, or GE with their Predix, are trying to create an ecosystem where they can attract partners to develop very specific applications unique to their own customer base, which they're partners. Because Siemens or GE knows they can't be an application expert for everybody. They just can't. It's not possible. There's too many unique requirements in every specific application. So they're going to kind of bring a draw to their partner through this ecosystem, because it's easy to develop applications and they can start to identify expertise. But there's a second type of cloud application platform, and that's the one on the right, where we have companies that have, they call it a platform, and they try to bring their expertise in some vertical applications. So whether it's infrastructure, building automation, or even power generation, a lot of these companies have developed very specific cloud applications that can serve those vertical industries, with also the idea that there's going to be a partner program drawing in, yet again, an ecosystem to solve problems that they haven't identified. So what you're going to need to do, from a strategic standpoint, is think about how do all these platforms work together? How do all these platforms work together once you've decided your strategy and going forward? So at the lowest level, you certainly have your device connectivity, whether it's connecting to machines, whether it's connecting to sensors, new technologies that you haven't even identified, and bringing that data and pushing it up to the higher level cloud platforms and application platforms, where you have platform after platform after platform solving different business needs. So that's part of your strategy to go forward in terms of the how you want to layer in your application platforms. But really, at the end of the day, where are the benefits? And I think a lot about this when I look at this technology, because what we just talked about is technology. A lot of times, technology, as you know, can be looking for a solution. But I think this technology has found solutions in many places. And what it is knowledge discovery. We've talked about this probably for 15 years. Knowledge discovery in your plant. That is, how do you take some of that tribal knowledge within your operations, within your people, and transform it in such that it's accessible throughout your operation, so you can utilize it to improve productivity. So you can actually go from quality 1 on the first run of a production line. So changeover isn't such a big issue. Because think about it. We need to transform our operations so that in fact, we can respond to the demands that are going to be put on the industry to have rapid changeover, become more agile, be more productive. There's tremendous amount of demands put on us. And through the analytical tools that we will be developing and pushing up into the cloud, well, you'll be identifying new ways to operate your plant. New ways so that you can get beyond what I call the production plateau. The production plateau, we many times hit it. A lot of us have been pushing and pushing and trying to optimize our operations, but we always hit the plateau. With analytics, with machine learning, and even cognitive systems, we're going to be going beyond that plateau and finding new ways, continuing to drive that curve up and beyond where we haven't reached before. But also, suppliers are going to be your suppliers, whether it's particularly machine builders. You're buying a pump, you're buying a compressor, any kind of rotary device, or it doesn't matter. What's going to happen is these machine builders are going to be going through the digital transformation as well. They're going to be looking for ways to provide you services that you've never had before. So some of the leading thinking is that we're going to start to look at software-defined machines. That is, Think about the early spacecraft, the Apollos in 1970 going to the moon. The telemetry, they were loading software at different waypoints throughout the navigation because they needed to adapt. But move forward 50 years. Tesla, it's collecting data from its drivers in the car. It's collecting data from its vehicles. It's reloading the cars with software based on the driver habits and how to optimize the vehicles. This is going to happen in our industry as well. We're going to start to see machine builders think about their machines as being software-defined machines and help improve your productivity. So a lot of machine builders are at the very first stages of this particular innovation. We're looking at companies that are actually looking at the digital transformation within the machinery business, whether it's, a good example is Schuler, for example, who makes presses, or companies that make elevators have all been involved with trying to connect their systems to provide better services for predictive maintenance, to get the serviceman there before the system actually fails. So we're at the very early stages of providing predictive maintenance services for the machinery industries. But as they follow across this curve you see on the screen, what you're going to see is machine builders are going to start to think about their machines not as a product sale, but you're going to be buying product output. So if you're buying a compressor, you won't be buying a compressor in 10 years, you'll be buying compressed air. And they'll be selling you compressed air. So as we all move through this trajectory of the digital transformation, our customers, your suppliers of equipment will be making that same transition, and you have to learn how to adapt to it as well in terms of how you buy equipment, how you plan to service equipment, and how you plan to integrate that into your operations. But as you can see here, the digital enterprise is across every axis, and you need to attend to almost every component of your enterprise to become absolutely optimized, because everywhere along each axis, there's data that needs to be collected, data that needs to be analyzed, and use it for driving performance throughout all of your operations. And a lot of you are going to struggle through this transition. It's not going to be easy. Many of you are going to find it difficult in the darkness and have to wait for the dawn. But to get there, what ARC has done is actually created the Digital Transformation Council, which is available to manufacturers and end users who really want to collaborate, learn from people in their industry and also outside of their industry. Because there's nothing better to learn from other industries, which are doing things possibly at a faster pace because they have more demands on their business. So if you're in the oil and gas business, maybe you'd like to talk to somebody who's in the CPG business, because the CPG is going to be driving hard toward digitalization. That's for sure. But membership in this is free, but it only requires your commitment to be participating, whether it's in surveys, online teleconferences, but you gain a lot from this through the advantage of whether you get the survey output or just simply collaborating. This is a way we've thought we could continue our agenda within these conferences rather than once a year, much more frequently, and bring it to the online world. So with that, I encourage you to look into our Digital Transformation Council, and you have further questions, certainly you can ask myself or Raman about more details on how to be a member. But I certainly thank you very much for this invitation, and I'm really delighted to be here for this event. Thank you again. Bye now.